Good morning. I'm going to ask our members of Congress to take a seat if they would. We're so happy that you are here. And to everybody else that's here, we are also happy. Is that working? We are also so happy that you all are here. Thank you all. It's a warm day, but you know what? That makes things grow. And that's exactly what we have been doing on this tour. We have been working hard to grow the efforts and the awareness of how important trade is to our economy. And I think we've been really successful. And I think you all are a testament to that. So thank you. I have been my name is Blanche Lincoln. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you who I was. Blanche Lincoln. I represented the state of Arkansas for the 1st Congressional District for 4 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. And I was very proud to represent my entire state in the United States Senate for 12 years and to be the first woman ever in the history of our country to serve as chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee. My dad was really proud of that as a 7th generation Arkansas farm family. And my dad was a rice farmer and a few trees on the side. Nonetheless, we are very excited and so proud. I'm very proud to have been traveling with this wonderful group. I started with them in Pennsylvania at a dairy farm that was started in the 1700s and is still going strong. I traveled with them to the Iowa State Fair and had a wonderful panel with my good friend and former colleague, Senator Chuck Grassley. We had good visibility and talking there in terms of what trade means to agriculture, what it means to our economy in this great country. And then got to go to California and visit with apple growers, almond growers, wine grape growers, rice growers, and a whole host of others. And folks, I'm just telling you, that is what this is about. It is about reaching out to the economics and to the livelihood and the families across this country that are involved in agriculture on behalf of our nation. The amazing group of people that I got to travel with, Angela, Carrie, Ryan, Chuck, Matt, all of them that are here, they are amazing. I will say that having worked on the Senate Finance Committee with Carrie and Angela, two women who are so passionate, who traveled the globe working hard to maintain relationships and working on trade and understanding what it meant to maintain those relationships was amazing. We had a great time. I was very lucky to be able to participate with our RV here. Gentlemen, we named the RV Ruth. Ruth has covered 20,000 miles in this country. She has covered 30 states and more than 100 stops along the way, and truly been a journey in more ways than one. I left here with them, headed to Pennsylvania. We decided then that we were not going to take Ruth through the streets of Washington, but we brought her through here today. And we've hit all the stops that we needed to make sure that we were here purposefully and meaningfully. Witnessing the stories firsthand from the producers, the agricultural community, and others across this country, equipment dealers, seed companies, and others, all of them up and down the agricultural food chain in the communities across our country. Everyone coming together to reinforce how critical trade with Mexico and Canada is to our rural economies across the country. It was a wonderful time and a great opportunity. It was very helpful to be able to work with all of the press along the way and to be able to visit with all of these individuals who feel so passionate. My dad was not only served in Korea at the end of World War II, but he came home to spend a lifetime farming. He loved it and he was proud of it, and he knew what it meant not only to us as a family, but he knew what it meant to the world. We grow the safest, most abundant, and affordable supply of food and fiber in the world, and we put it to good use not just in our country, but across the globe, and that's what we're here to talk about. Farmers for Free Trade across the cross-country tour, we had a lot of leadership, coordination, and generous support from so many of our agricultural and industry associations. Just a minute to recognize a few of those: Farm Bureau, American Soybean Association, National Corn Growers, U.S. Apple Association, National Milk Producers Federation, U.S. Dairy Export Council, Corn Refiners Association, National Association of Wheat Growers, Distilled Spirits Council. Many of those are here today, and there were so many more that stepped up to the plate when we came into their communities, and so it was wonderful. I believe we also have farmers here. That's a key point. From Indiana, Iowa, Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and I imagine there's a few others as well. Without the support of all of you all, this campaign could never have come together. I know it seems a little old-fashioned, but from my standpoint, gentlemen, when I was out campaigning, it was most important to really be there with the people who were making the economy work, who were really doing the hard work in terms of their families and in their industries and businesses, and it makes a difference, and that's what we've been doing, and many of you all have joined us, and we are so very, very grateful to you for that. So we can't stop now. As it says on Ruth, our RV here, you got 14 million American jobs that are at risk here. They depend on trade with Canada and Mexico. We can't afford to wait while the rest of the world is passing us by in terms of trade. So we're looking to make sure the USMCA is going to be done as soon as possible. And that's why we are ending our tour here today, because the time is now. I would be remiss if I also didn't recognize my very good friend, former Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Vilsack. Tom, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. All right, now y'all have heard enough from me. I'm going to let you hear from these folks. I want to represent a very good friend of mine, someone I worked with an awful lot when I was in the House. We were Blue Dogs together. We did an awful lot, and he was a tremendous mentor to me. Representative Colin Peterson, but also the current chairman of the House Agriculture Committee from Minnesota. Colin, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Blanche. And she was tough. She was a tough chairwoman, but we worked things out in the end. So I appreciate all of you being here and supporting this. I represent a border district with Canada, and we understand how important trade is between our countries. I think it's somewhat ironic, maybe, that I'm leading off this rally today, because I probably shouldn't even bring this up, but I did not support NAFTA. And the reason I didn't support NAFTA was because of sugar. And I was right. You know, we had a lot of problems with sugar out of NAFTA. But eventually we got them worked out. You know, we got a suspension agreement and got things worked out. I was also skeptical about some of the other claims that were being made, but it turned out to be better than I think anybody expected. The agriculture was a big winner out of NAFTA. And so this agreement, I told Lighthizer, I said, when Ambassador Lighthizer, I said, as long as you don't screw up what we got going in agriculture, I'm going to support this agreement. Yeah, because they had been talking about some changes that would have been not good. And when they came out with the final agreement, they not only maintained what we had under NAFTA, they actually improved it in dairy. Some other areas, there's other areas that outside of agriculture that maybe got more improvements than that. But I immediately came out in favor of USMCA. I think it's a good agreement, and it's something that we need to get done. And right now I'm optimistic about the chances of getting this done. I talked to Chairman Neal on Monday night, and he was pretty confident that we're going to have a vote within the next month or two. I also talked to the subcommittee chair, Earl Blumenauer. He had the same message. I know the Speaker is working hard to build support in our caucus so that we can bring this to the floor. So I think we're on track, at least at this point, to get this thing up for a vote in the next month or two. And I would encourage people to be patient. It takes time to build up this support. In our caucus, we still have skeptics. We have people that are not in favor of this. And we got to work through the system, and that's what we're doing right now. But as of right now, I'm optimistic. Hopefully something won't happen that blows things up. We'll see how that all goes. But my home state is the fourth largest exporter, ag exporter in the country. We have more than $7 billion in exports. Ag trade supports 57,000 jobs in Minnesota. And Blanche, by the way, we do have some farmers from Minnesota too. We have Kevin Papp, the chairman of the president of the Minnesota Farmers Union, Farm Bureau. You got some people with you, Kevin, this morning? Okay, we got some farmers here from Minnesota, so they're out here suffering in this heat because back home it's not this hot. But anyway, for us in our district, Mexico is the #1 market for dairy, poultry, corn, and wheat. And Canada is a top market for animal feed, pork, poultry, and soybean meal. So Canada and Mexico aren't only customers, they're also important, I think, in keeping this free trade movement moving. And this agreement, as I said, it's not going to be a game changer, but it's positive and it's needed for stability. A bigger issue is getting something resolved with the China situation. And I think it's going to be very hard to do if we don't get this out of the way. So that's another reason for us to move on this sooner rather than later. Right now in my district, we produce a lot of soybeans. Those soybeans go west. The whole infrastructure that we've set up is to move those soybeans west. You get out of our state, you get in North Dakota, South Dakota, all of the bins are full, all the elevators are full, everything is shut down, the ports on the west coast are shut down, and it's a huge problem. And what we're going to do with this crop, we're not exactly sure. I guess we're going to get a bunch of big white plastic bags and put them in the ground. I'm not sure, because there is no room in our elevators for these soybeans that we're producing this year. So we need to get this resolved. We can't let this keep going on, and we have to get USMCA out of the way in order to get that to happen. So we understand that this is important in Minnesota. We understand that this is important on the House Ag Committee. We have the former chairman, my friend, who's now the ranking member, Mr. Conaway, here to attest that we are bipartisan today. We're locked at the hip here, and we appreciate all you other members being here, as well as the people here that have been supporting this effort as we go along. So thank you all very much. And I'm going to head out. I got to go to another meeting, but I'm going to leave it in your capable hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the next chairman, Chairman Conaway from Texas. Mike, come on up.
Well, thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. I want to thank the Farmers for Free Trade, Farm Bureau, and all the others who participate in this coalition on this messaging tour across the United States. Getting the message out to the folks who are in the hitherland so that they can then talk to their member of Congress has been an important process and getting this thing done. So we're getting that support that is needed in the House of Representatives to move this thing forward. Time is of the essence. Every day that we don't get this done is another day that the old, outdated model currently in place continues to guide our free trade agreements and what's going on. ITC has evaluated this agreement, and for production agriculture, it's about $2.2 billion increase in trade every year. It's certainly good for dairy, poultry, and some other specific areas, but on balance, it's good across the entire ag production areas. Mexico and Canada are our two largest trading partners. They account for about 30% of our ag trade between the ag exports to the United States, according to 2017 numbers. And so getting this deal done, resetting those trade relationships and moving them forward is important. Even under the old outdated agreements in place, agriculture trade between our three countries has tripled, moving up 5 and 6% per year. So even in the weight of that, it's still moving forward. This deal will make that even better. Our two trading partners, Mexico has already implemented passed the implementing legislation. Canada is poised to do that as soon as we do something. So now it's our turn to make this happen. And again, I want to thank the coalition for making this happen. But I also want to thank Robert Lighthizer. I've been watching him work this work. We've been working with him for a long, long time. There's no one that's been more tireless in getting this done. It's some days I'm pretty sure he feels like Sisyphus. Rolls that rock to the top of the hill, and this morning gets back down to the bottom. So, but this guy has been tireless in making that happen. So we owe a big debt of thanks to the USTR, because he's been working really hard on both sides of the aisle. This isn't a particularly partisan issue, shouldn't be, and Lighthizer has been working on both sides to get this thing done. So I would encourage all of you to encourage your member of Congress to get behind the USMCA and get this thing passed now, because time is of the essence. Thank you, Blanche.
Mike. You bet. We appreciate it. And he's absolutely right. It takes everybody working together, and we do appreciate the fact that everybody's coming to the table. So another chairman, Kevin Brady from Texas.
Thank you. Chairman, thanks very much for leading this coalition. Chairman, and thank you just for everything you're doing. It brings so much energy and leadership to this important effort for the country. To Mike Conaway, Chairman, Conway, no one has fought harder for our farmers, our ranchers, our growers, and our cattlemen in Texas, around the country than you. Thank you, Chairman. We're just going to ride your back to one more big victory for American farmers and ranchers with USMCA. Yeah. So we had a good August. Thanks to Farmers for Free Trade, to our growers, to American Farm Bureau, and my Texas Farm Bureau, we built a lot of momentum for this trade agreement over August. It was our farmers and ranchers leading the way, followed by our manufacturers, our tech community, our small businesses, all with one message. America is made for trade. Our ranchers and farmers are made for trade, and all we need to do to grow our country and our families is more customers. And that's what this new Mexico-Canada trade agreement does. It grows more customers with our biggest trading partners, Mexico and Canada. Our state, like the country, is made for trade. This is incredibly important for selling more of our made in Texas, more of our made in America products. This is an outstanding agreement for agriculture. Not only locks in zero tariffs and duties for agriculture, it goes beyond that. It pries open Canada for a lot of our ag products. It makes sure that food safety regulations are science-based. It protects ag biotech here in America, and it streamlines the process so we can move our products across the border to those new customers faster and cheaper and quicker. This is an important agreement for us. I just feel, I'll finish with this. I feel like we have moved to the 20-yard line here. A lot of work that's been done in developing this agreement. For Democrats, this is a dream agreement that is so much better than the existing NAFTA. We have leaders among our Democrats, Chairman Peterson, Henry Cuellar. He and I went to Mexico this August on this. This is, at the end of the day, we can't delay any longer. Every day we delay, it hurts our farmers, our workers, our communities, and our economy in a major way. And it helps China every day we delay. So it is time to act on this agreement. Secondly, this will not be, USMCA won't be just a win for Republicans or a win for the Democrats. This will be a win for the American people. And that's why this will take a bipartisan leadership and a bipartisan support in Congress to do it. I'm confident we can get this agreement to the President's desk this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Brady. My husband asked me where I was going this morning, and I told him it was a Farmers for Free Trade rally. And he said to me, he says, well, honey, you're at the 20-yard line in years because my birthday's coming up. He says, get out there and have fun. I also want to just say that Chairman Brady makes another good point. We got to Texas, the momentum got so big, people got so excited we had to add stops. And that's a good thing. So thanks. Our next speaker is Congressman Cuellar from Texas as well.
Senator, Senator, it's a pleasure seeing you again. I see the Secretary also. Secretary, thank you so much for being here, and all my colleagues here. And Kevin, of course, we just got back from Mexico to make sure that we get this agreement done. We will get this agreement done. It's going to be a bipartisan vote. It'll be done this fall. We're very close. I feel very confident that we're going to get it done. It will be done. Pelosi will put it for a vote. We're very close. In fact, yesterday we just had a meeting, Pelosi, myself, and some of the Mexican officials to talk about certain things. And as some of the other members said, we got to thank the ambassador. He really has done a great job. He has worked to make sure that the right provisions are done there. As you know, there was just a counteroffer yesterday, and I think we're going to get there. And as it was said, I talked to Richie Neal yesterday. They want to get to a yes. We're very close, so I feel very confident that we are going to have a vote on this. Let me tell you why this is important. It's important for several reasons. First of all, farmers and ranchers don't want bailouts. Bailouts are only temporary. What you want markets. You want markets and long-term contracts so you can sell to other folks, because if we lose those contracts to somebody else, it's hard to get that business back. And Joey, you know this in West Texas, whether we're talking about cotton, once you lose that contract, it's hard to get it back, because especially if people get comfortable with other countries, and that's why this trade agreement is very important. So one, it's pure economics for us. It makes sense for jobs to be created here. The other thing is, think about this. Don't we want a strong and prosperous Mexico as a neighbor? I mean, we want them to do well. We want them to do well, because if it's a strong, prosperous Mexico and Canada, that's good for our safety, that's good for our security, and that's good for our economy. Because in the old days, think about this. In the old days, we used to look at things very differently. And I've always said this. When we see Mexico as an enemy and Russia as a friend, the world has been turned upside down. That's wrong. We have to treat Mexico as a friend. Every day there's more than $1.7 billion of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. That's over $1 million every single minute. My hometown, Laredo, small little town, about 260,000. We handle 16,000 trailers a day. A day. Think about this. If you line up those trailers that pass through Laredo just in one day, they will go around the world twice. And that doesn't include most trains will come through Laredo. And this is why we got to make sure that we pass this trade agreement. Let me tell you something else that's going down on the border. In 2006, 90% of the people coming into the U.S., the southern border, were Mexicans. That has changed completely. Now 73% of the people come to the border are from Central America. So what's happening in Mexico? Mexico is a growing economy. Mexico has technology. Mexico has all this beauty and resources. And if we get this trade agreement, it's going to make them stronger. And if they're stronger, it's for our own self-interest. So again, I would say to anybody who speaks in Spanish here, necesitamos el tratado libre con México. We need the trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. We are going to do it, but again, we need your help. I will just close with this. My first vote was a freshman as a Democrat back in 2005. I would tell you it was a little different. This time, I feel it very different. We know who's going to vote yes, because some of us have the record to vote yes all the time. I'm one of those. We got some folks who will vote no every single time. But in between, there's a lot of folks that I feel it's different. And Jim, you know this. It's very different. We've been working on this. There are people that are saying, hey, let me take a look at this. Let me take a look at it. And as I talked to some of the freshman Democrats, some of them said, well, let me see what Ag has to say. I said, bingo. Well, Ag will talk to you because it's important to Ag. We appreciate the work that Ag has done. I know we have the Texas Farm Bureau and the other folks down here, Laramie and all that. Other folks from here, we're working together. If you have names on counting the Democrats, if you want to work with us, we have a list to tell you who else you need to talk to. I know Kevin is working on the Republicans and Steve Scalise. We're there, guys. All we have to do is put it to vote. Pelosi will put it to a vote. I feel very confident about it. It's going to pass. We'll send it over to the Senate and get it done again because of you. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry. We're going to get through the rest of these speakers because we want to hear from everybody, and they're great. Representative Congressman Jim Hagedorn from Minnesota. We got a lot of Minnesota represented. Come on, Jim. You bet.
Thanks. I don't know how I got stuck in the order following Henry. Wow, that was terrific. And I associate myself with all of his remarks. They were just wonderful. And I really appreciate the bipartisan nature of this gathering, from Chairman Peterson, of course, Senator Lambert, the Governor and Secretary Vilsack and others, and then our fine leaders on our side, Chairman Conaway and Chairman Brady. They've all done terrific work. But especially this coalition, the Farmers for Free Trade, they were in our district just south of New Ulm, Minnesota, at the Hoffman Dairy Farm over a month or so ago. It's a great meeting. Had the Farm Bureau, pork producers, a bunch of good farmers there, and we talked about the benefits of the deal. But I can tell you it was an emotional experience. The dairy farmer the Hoffman farm, that I think is 5th generation, and they've been struggling. They need some wins, as they said. And especially this deal is good for dairy. And a lot of the farmers for 5 and 6 years with the low commodity prices, the high input costs, have been struggling. So, when you bring it down to what this is all about, it's about the people, it's about our communities, it's about our way of life. And like they said, they need a win. And right now on the table, this is the win. And it's going to build the momentum we need for the deal with Japan and China and everything else, so we can expand our economy, defend rural America, and support our farmers and agriculture and all of Americans' businesses and consumers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you. We also have Lloyd Smucker from Pennsylvania. The congressman and I were in Pennsylvania together when we kicked off the tour. Welcome, Congressman.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here to support the USMCA. Yes, I was very proud. This tour started in Pennsylvania, the 11th District, at the Kreider Farm. And it was a wonderful kickoff for an event, and I understand you traveled 20,000 miles since then. So thank you for what you...
She's still panting. Ruth is
She's still panting. I think it's appropriate that it kicked off in my particular part of Pennsylvania, my particular part of the country. The 11th District is one of the top 10 dairy producing counties in the nation. Agriculture is the top industry, one of the top industries in our economy. We have more layers, egg-laying hens, than any other district across the country. And the Kreider Farm, where we kicked this off, has millions and millions of eggs they're producing on a daily basis. And as Jim just said, farmers in my district today are struggling, particularly the dairy industry has been struggling for a number of years. And so I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that we have a president who has been fighting for the American farmer, who has been fighting for American workers. Manufacturing is very big in my area as well. I think American farmers, American workers can compete. They're the best in the world, and we can compete. And they don't ask for a handout. Our farmers and our workers aren't asking for a handout. They're simply asking for a level playing field. They're simply asking for the ability to have markets that are open to them across the world. We know that 1/5 of all farm income comes from international trade. 1/5 of all farm income. You want to help the dairy farmers? You want to help the egg producers? Open new markets. That's why we in Pennsylvania 11 support this agreement. We think it will make a real difference in the lives of American farmers and American workers. We know there is support in Congress for this today. So today I urge Speaker Pelosi to schedule this for a vote. It's time we get this done. This will make a significant difference in the lives of the people of Pennsylvania 11. So it's time we do it. I ask that we do it, and we do it now. Thank you for having me here, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Lloyd. I noticed that Congressman Costa has joined us, and we'll have him say a few remarks. Congressman, before you do, I just want to make sure everybody knows that we don't have time for everybody to speak, but we've got some great participation with the members of Congress that are here, and I can't thank you enough. I know how busy your schedules are and what it means. So it's just critically important for you all to know that they've taken time out of their day. As my husband says, got to be present to win. You guys are present, and I'm really proud of that. Jody Arrington from Texas is here. Scott De La Rosa, yes, I didn't get that very, from Tennessee, but that's close to me, Tennessee. Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, Dusty Johnson from South Dakota, David Rouser from North Carolina, Chip Roy, my glasses are on my head. Chip Roy from Texas, David Schweikert from Arizona, and Glenn Thompson from Pennsylvania. Also, we've got Representative Congressman Bost and Congressman Marshall. What a great group. Thank them. Thank all of these. And then we're going to move to the other speakers that we have, but we're going to first have a word from Congressman Costa. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, are you fired up? Yeah. Good. Well, I'm fired up. For American consumers, for American workers and for American farmers, it is very important that we conclude this trade agreement and we pass it. Let me tell you, as a third-generation family farmer from California, how important this agreement is. But not only from that perspective, California, the #1 agricultural state in the nation, 44% of our agriculture produced in California is exported. Our dairy markets in Mexico are critical. Our wine markets in Canada are essential. And the list goes on and on and on when we talk about California's important role in American agriculture and how dependent upon we're on trade. Some estimate that it's over 14% of our economy is generated through trade with Canada and Mexico. So let me just put it where it is. We have worked very hard on a bipartisan effort to bring this trade agreement to where it is. And obviously we have concerns that the agreements that Mexico has put in place on labor, on the environment, and on biomedical are enforced, because clearly that's important to a fair and level trading field that is critical for, again, American consumers, workers, and farmers and ranchers. This effort started off in California, and I was a part of that effort there. I don't know, I guess it was 2 months ago. I'm glad to see it at its concluding place here in where it needs to conclude, with a rally of support of not only agricultural interests, but interests throughout the country. As Trumpka said, the head of the AFL-CIO, this is a trade agreement he'd like to support. And let me close on that note. NAFTA has been widely discussed upon what it has achieved over the last 25 years, and also about the deficiencies that exist in the current agreement. When NAFTA was created in the mid-1990s, the internet was in its infancy, and a lot has changed since that time. If you have problems with the existing agreement, it seems to me logical that you got two choices, and that is to support this new and improved agreement as it relates to labor standards, environmental standards, and the importance of biomedical trade, or you can live with the existing agreement that you have all these difficulties with, right? Common sense tells you that if you want to improve it, then this is that opportunity to do just that. The third alternative is to have no agreement, and I think that would be disastrous to our economy as well as to our neighbors of the south and to the north. Canada and Mexico combined account for more trade than our next 10 trading partners. That's the reality, and that's why this is so important. So on a bipartisan level, we're going to continue to work together to ensure that these agreements are implemented so that our American farmers, as well as our American workers, as our American consumers, have a sort of an agreement that reflects the needs of the 21st century as we go on to continue to build our economy for our country, but also for our neighbors to the north and to the south. That's what this is about. Let's work hard. Let's get this across the finish line. I know with this bipartisan support, we can do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I had a great time with your farm families in California. I'd like to call upon somebody who's near and dear to my heart, somebody who I'm proud of and have worked with and grateful to for many, many things, former Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, who is now President and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. Tom?
Sure, thank you. Madam Chair, thank you very, very much, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. I want to acknowledge my chairman, Chairman Conaway. I worked with him as well as Glenn Thompson on the Ag Committee, and Jim Costa. Thank you all for being here. Don't want to exclude other members of Congress, but these guys were on the Ag Committee, and they were pretty important in my life for 8 years. And they are incredibly important to the over 2.5 million Americans that Chairwoman Blanche Lincoln was so concerned about when she chaired the Ag Committee in the Senate. Not just 2.5 million American farmers are dependent on the vote that will take place hopefully sometime this fall on the USMCA, but there are 43 million Americans who work in the food and agriculture industry in this country. 43 million Americans whose jobs are impacted and affected by what happens in food and agriculture. That's 28% of America's workforce. And the food and agriculture industry impacts 20% of America's economy. So anything that impacts and affects positively trade opportunities and the ability to sell product, both food and ag products, makes a difference to American workers and farmers, and as Representative Costa said, consumers. It seems to me, playing on Representative Costa's comments, there are two fundamental questions here. First, is the agreement enforceable? And certainly people are working on that set of issues, and it is important that it be enforceable. And once you're convinced that it's enforceable, then it's really simply a question of, is it better than what we currently have? And I can tell you for American agriculture, it's clearly better. For the American dairy industry, it's absolutely better. When this debate began, and this conversation about a modernized NAFTA agreement began, there were 41,000 dairy farmers in the country. Today there are 37,000. So when people talk about time is of the essence, indeed it is, for many of America's dairy farms. What does this agreement do for dairy? Well, first and foremost, it preserves our #1 market in Mexico, making sure that we don't have any barriers or tariff problems or consequences in that important market. It's an opportunity for us to support that market and to continue to grow that market. It also creates a new opportunity for us to have protections in the cheese business against efforts by the EU to sort of monopolize certain cheese names. We have a side agreement as part of this agreement that will help protect our cheese industry in the United States. It opens up the Canadian market, as Chairman Brady indicated. It does open up that market. It creates new opportunities for us in the dairy, but it also eliminates Class 7 pricing system, which the Canadians put together because they simply couldn't solve all of their problems in dairy through their supply management system. So they exported the problems to the rest of us. And it has allowed our powder market to be roiled to the point where we have suffered significant losses. So this agreement is important in terms of getting rid of Class 7 and substituting it for a new pricing system that will restrain the capacity of our Canadian friends to export market powder with market prices that are well below world market prices. So this is an important agreement from a dairy perspective. It's an important agreement for dairy farmers and for all those who work in the dairy industry. Nearly 3 million jobs are connected to the dairy industry. So it's an easy opportunity for me to be here today to ask my friends in Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, to understand the significance of this agreement to the country, to 2.5 million farmers and their families, hardworking, patriotic farm families, to the 43 million hardworking Americans whose jobs depend on the food and agriculture industry, and to the 320 million consumers who want choice, who want quality, who want safety, and who want competition, if you will, for their consuming dollar. So I'm pleased to be here to speak on behalf of the U.S. Dairy Export Council and the members that we represent, and I encourage Congress to act and act quickly and expeditiously to get this passed. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Secretary. Another great friend who travels the roads of this great country, working with the American Farm Bureau, is our friend Zippy Duvall, President of the American Farm Bureau. Zippy.
Well, thank you, and I'm so proud to be here, and I'm excited. Aren't you excited? Yeah. In a time when you turn the TV on and all the news reports tears us apart and says we're divided, look who's sitting around with us today, Democrats and Republicans, talking about not just trade for farmers, but trade for Americans. This is such an important trade deal. Agriculture has to have a level playing field, and we have to have open markets. So I want to say first thank you to Blanche and Farmers for Free Trade going around the country to talk about this. Hopefully in every community that you were in, Farm Bureau was there, because we have 2,700 active counties across America where farmers are involved in issues like this. And then I want to say thank you to these congressmen and senators for the effort that they're putting in to make sure that we finish the drill, and that's appropriate in this college football season. We got to finish this drill and get it done. It's important to not just farmers, but all Americans. And then I want to thank the grassroots of our organization. American Farm Bureau represents 6 million families across America. And today we have Minnesotans here. Kevin Papp's president of Minnesota. We have Kansas here with him. Mr. Rich Phelps is president of Kansas, and Randy Crone, who's president of Indiana Farm Bureau, and we have them here. And I know that every one of them, if their schedules would allow them, would be here because this trade treaty is that important. Farmers do not want aid. They want trade. But the only trade that we can afford to be involved in is trade that provides us a level playing field. What sets America apart from the rest of the world is our infrastructure and our ability to be productive. And our farmers are the most productive in the world. Let's get level playing field, fair trade. Let's get USMCA done. Let's turn our farmers loose and let's see what potential they really have. They have sons and daughters and nieces and nephews that want to come back to the farm, and they can't do it without a strong trade agreement like USMCA. Thank you for being here today. This is a great event. This is a good treaty, and I want to say, let's finish the drill. Let's get this done. Thank you.
Thanks, Zippy. We also have with us the National Association of Wheat Growers, who have been enormously helpful to us and supportive, and we appreciate it. Ben Schultz. Ben?
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here today. I am a Texas wheat grower and have the privilege to serve on the National Association of Wheat Growers as president at the present time. USMCA is a vital agreement that affects not only Texas wheat producers but our wheat producers across the nation. We're one of those commodities that 50% of our production annually on an average needs to seek a foreign market. So with this said, you know, we joined in on this movement right at the very beginning to try to help support and influence the activity that's so important to all. In an economy that, as a grower in an economy that we're in right now, this would be a big boost to not only get this agreement ratified, but it would lead to the trail that this administration has taken toward looking at other agreements with other countries, and in turn the grower, as myself, would look to the market for value in our product. Our interest is to get value back into that product, and that comes back down to affect rural America, our communities. It gives certainty for the future, and as Zippy just mentioned, future generations. As you can see, I'm a generation that will soon be disappearing from the field of ag. But we need to have value in our marketplace to be able to bring those future farmers, ranchers, dairymen, whatever they are, back into the business. So has been displayed today, we're at the finish line and we're ready to see it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you. Thanks, Ben. All right. I get to having too much fun, and I've been told I got to speed it up here, but I've got a lot of other members here. I know their days are filled with literally more than they can humanly do, so we're going to run through folks a little bit quicker if we can and just get down through everybody. Congressman Baird from Indiana, there he is right there. Congressman, come on. Thank you.
I'll help you out, Blanche. I usually don't take a lot of time. And I've heard a lot of states mentioned up here before, but I represent Indiana, West Central Indiana. Our president of our Farm Bureau here is Randy. So I just want you to know that Indiana is very supportive of the USMCA. We need that passed as well as these other states, and so we have a lot of good ranchers and farmers and manufacturers as well that are depending on this kind of trade. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Congressman Baird. Congressman Jody Arrington. Where's Jody? There he is. Texas.
I thought you were enforcing the too many Texan rule with my two chairmen back there. I just want to say thank you to everybody for the big push. Sort of like Ruth, it's been a long and arduous journey, but we're here, and we need to get it over the line. And after hearing Henry Cuellar, I believe we have a great shot at doing it. And as my colleague said, there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot at stake for our hard-working, God-fearing, freedom-loving farmers that are here in the crowd and back home in West Texas, the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the United States of America, right, Mike? These guys, they do more than just feed and clothe the American people. Rural America is the backbone of this country. And these folks have the bedrock values that this nation was built on. And we've got to make sure that we don't just have responsible and reliable safety nets in a farm bill. That's critical. But we need a better and brighter future. We need a future prospect for prosperity. And that's what is at stake with USMCA. And I'm proud of this president. One thing hasn't been mentioned. President Trump has made fair trade a priority. And he was right to call out the fact that we don't have even playing field, that we don't have fair trade. And we're not looking to take advantage of anybody. We just want head-to-head competition because we know we have the best producers and operators. We have the best technology, and ultimately we have the best product. And so I'm grateful, Madam Chairman, for your efforts. I'm thankful and blessed to have served under Mike Conaway to get an outstanding farm bill done, a bipartisan farm bill. And I'm also blessed to serve with Chairman Brady to work on this pathway to prosperity for rural America and for all citizens of this great country. So thank you guys. Make the big push. Don't stop. As my colleague Zippy said, finish the drill. God bless. Go West Texas.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks, Jody. Congressman Scott Descharlet from Tennessee. You bet.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. What a great day. I represent the great agricultural state of Tennessee, and we have the largest farm bureau in the country in my district of Columbia, Tennessee. They're great leadership there. Jeff Akins and Radonna Rose were kind enough to pull together about 200 farmers for me just a couple of weeks ago in Tennessee. And the take home from that meeting to me was they support President Trump and what he's doing for farmers, and they want this trade agreement done. So Canada wants this, Mexico wants this, our farmers want this, our business and industries want this, so let's get this done. This should not be a partisan issue. This is an American issue, and I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing today, but let's get this done. Thank you so much.
Congressman Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin. Is he still here? I know their schedules are getting tight. Congressman Dusty Johnson from South Dakota. Thanks, Dusty. There you go. Get a sign.
Zippy had it right. Let's finish the drill. USMCA. All right, let's get it done.
All right. David Rouser from North Carolina. He had to go, okay. Chip Roy from Texas. David Schweikert from Arizona. Glenn Thompson. There you go. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's right. Senator, thank you so much. And, you know, you talked about what's at risk with 14 million jobs. That's the population of Pennsylvania, to put that in perspective. It is so important to get this done. The month of August, I love August because you're able to be back home in the community, in the field, in the barns, you know, talking with our farm families and the rest of my constituents. And this is on their mind. They're farmers for free trade. And I want to thank Senator, you and your team for those 30 states crisscrossing the United States, bringing this message forward. There's been a lot of great facts and powerful words that have been spoken here today. Let's not forget that the people that are going to benefit most from the passing and the implementation of the USMCA will all be every American family when they wake up in the morning in their hometowns and they're looking for food security. This is what this is about, ultimately, is food security. And I don't care how big your hometown is. It can be a hometown of Washington, D.C., there's millions. It could be Henry Cuellar, who had 200,000. It could be me, where it's 700 people and one red light in my hometown. It doesn't matter what the size is. This UMCA is good for every hometown and every American family. Let's get it done.
All right, and I think Congressman Marshall. There we go. You bet. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. There's nothing more important to Kansas farmers, Kansas ranchers, Kansas dairy than passing the USMCA agreement. There's nothing that could help our economy more than this agreement. Our president has negotiated a fantastic agreement. It's going to mean thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars of increased exports for Kansans. We need to get this across the finish line. On behalf of all those Kansas agriculture folks, I call upon Speaker Pelosi to bring this to the House floor and give us the opportunity to vote on this in September. In September, there's no reason to put it off. Let's get this done now. Thanks for having us.
Congressman Marshall from Kansas, thanks so much. Some of my best friends, Bob Dole, Pat Roberts, kept me out of trouble a lot. Jim Slattery, a lot of them. Thank you all so much for joining us. I just want to say this is a timely issue. There's nobody that knows better than these members of Congress that once you hit Washington in September, time flies. We got to get things done. We got to make it happen. I got to say, you know, my dad said that it's a blessing to live in this wonderful democratic republic that we live in, but what makes it work is when people that are governed participate in it. And that's what we're asking you to do. You got numbers right here. You can text USMCA to 52886. Send it to somebody that'll pass it along. Get the message out that we've really worked hard here. We've got something that's bipartisan that can really work and move us down the field in our trade and economy and everything else that we've been working so hard for. All right, I'm going to ask the congressman, if whoever's left here, if y'all stand up with us in front of Ruth, get our picture made, and then everybody in the crowd come stand up with Ruth. She is worn out. So thank you all so much for coming. We're so grateful for your presence and for your support.